The satin sheets on my bed were wrapped around two bodies that were absolutely not supposed to be there, and I was just standing in the doorway with a cake box in my hands, staring at my billionaire husband and my so-called friend like my brain had checked out for a second. You know what I mean? I didn't scream, I didn't throw the cake, I didn't start some dramatic soap opera fight. I just placed the box down very carefully on the floor, pulled out my phone, and took 3 clear pictures, no flash, no shutter sound. I had turned all that off years ago because it distracts me on business calls, Lena, and as it turned out, that little habit he trained into me was about to cost him millions. I backed out of the room on shaking legs, walked down that stupid, long hallway. He was so proud of, hit the elevator button. And only when the doors closed did I finally let my hands shake like crazy, not from heartbreak, from pure cold rage, the kind that makes everything suddenly very, very clear. My name is Lena Carter. At that time I was 31 years old, living in a glass box on the outskirts of Chicago, with a man named Ethan Cole. One of those I move money around, and somehow I'm worth 9 figures, finance guys. Before Ethan, I was an interior designer, small firm, solid clients. I liked my life when he proposed. He told me, "You don't ever have to work again, baby. Let me take care of you. It's cute that you design, but you don't need the stress." And little by little, I started believing that I let my business fade out. I traded clients and paint swatches for charity galas and designer gowns. I became Mrs. Ethan Cole, expensive ring, perfect photos, and a smile that never quite reached my eyes. And the whole time he made sure to remind me in these little joking jabs, "You'd never survive without me, Lena. This life is more than you could ever build on your own, yeah." He really said that. So I'm sitting in my car in the underground garage, still in my anniversary dress cake, untouched on the passenger seat, staring through the windshield, while my heart pounds in my ears, and my first instinct is to call my mother. But I already know how that conversation goes. She'd said it on my wedding day. "You won the lottery. Don't mess it up. Men like him cheat. That's just how it is. Don't be stupid and leave." So I call the one person I know will not tell me to be grateful, my best friend, Tori. "Hey," I say, somehow sounding almost normal. "Are you home?" She hears something in my voice immediately. "Where are you, garage?" I caught Ethan with someone, a beat of silence, then, "Come to my place now. I'll order food and pull out the good wine." Tori's apartment is the complete opposite of my house, tiny place on the south side, with mismatched furniture and plants that are somehow still alive. She opens the door, takes one look at me, and doesn't ask. "Are you sure?" She just says, "Phone." I hand it over. She swipes through the pictures, her jaw tightening. "Is that Leah?" she asks. "Yep." I say the same, Leah. We helped move when her cheating ex kicked her out, the same Leah. I got a job at Ethan's firm, the same Leah who stood right next to me in a bridesmaid dress, smiling at our wedding. Tori shakes her head. "I never liked that girl. Her energy was off." I laugh, and it comes out sharp. "You tried to warn me. I didn't want to hear it." That's when everything I've been pushing down for years just comes up. I tell Tori about the hotel receipts I found by accident 2 years earlier. The jewelry charges that never showed up on my body, the late nights at the office that never made sense, the way he would stare at me and say, "You're being paranoid. You're lucky. Stop looking for problems," and how I believed him. Because every woman in my life basically said, "Rich men cheat, deal with it." And Tori just looks at me and says, "Okay, so what do you want to do? Not what your mom wants, not what society would clap for. What do you want?" And the answer drops out of my mouth before I even think about it. I want a divorce, and I want a shark for a lawyer. Monday morning, I walk into this downtown law firm with marble floors and quiet hallways, and the woman I meet is named Andrea Walsh. Mid-50s, silver hair, the kind of eyes that probably scare grown men in expensive suits. She lets me tell the whole story, start to finish, no interruption. Then she taps her pen and asks, "Prenup." I pull a thick envelope from my bag. It's covered in little sticky notes and highlighter marks. She raises an eyebrow. "You actually read it 3 times, I say." He thought I just skimmed it. I didn't, she flips through, nodding to herself. "All right, so his company and premarital assets are protected fine, but everything you two bought during the marriage, the lake house, the investment portfolio, in both your names, the cars, the art, that's marital property. You're entitled to a very comfortable piece of that." I look at her and say, "I'm not trying to burn him to the ground. I just want what's mine, and I want out fast. No drawn-out drama. No meetings where he cries for the camera." She gives me this little shark smile. "Good, because we can absolutely do fast. We'll have him served at his office public enough to rattle his ego. But professional, you're going to need a place to land somewhere that's yours. Can you do that this week?" I nod, and in that moment, something inside me shifts from victim to planner. That week I move like a ghost. Ethan is busy with Q4 or some nonsense, gone early, home late, barely even looking at me, which honestly works in my favor. I dig through files and confirm everything again. I go to a little credit union I opened an account with in college. It has maybe $700 sitting in there. I update the contact info, make it my safe account. I look at our household checking where Ethan deposits money every month for bills and fun money. And I notice I can legally withdraw up to a certain amount without his signature. So I walk into the bank, smile at the teller, and move just under that limit into my own account. That money was meant for our household, and I am still part of this household legally and technically, so I don't feel guilty at all. I rent a storage unit under my maiden name and start quietly moving things. Boxes of books he calls clutter clothes I paid for myself, family photos he always shoved in a drawer because they ruined the aesthetic. I photograph every room, every painting, every piece of furniture, and make a list of what we bought after the wedding, what receipts have both our names. It's petty and methodical at the same time. But when someone has told you for years that you're bad with money and don't understand business, sitting in a storage unit with spreadsheets feels like taking your brain back. On Wednesday, I see a small 2-bedroom apartment, older brick building, no valet, no concierge. The landlord looks at my application and asks if my husband will be signing too. And I feel my spine straighten when I say, "Husband, just me. And I can pay 6 months' rent up front." That moment might seem small from the outside, but for me, it's like an earthquake. Later that night, I sign the lease Thursday. A moving truck comes while Ethan is at a client dinner. They empty the guest room and half my closet spaces he never walks into. Friday morning. I wake up early, put on a black suit. I bought before Ethan. He always said made me look too intense. I make his coffee, kiss his cheek, smile like a woman who has no idea, and watch from the window as his car pulls away from the driveway. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzes. "Andrea, he's been served. He's breaking things in his office. Security is already involved." I stare at that message, then I grab my bag, walk out the front door, and don't look back. The next few weeks are chaos and strangely peaceful. At the same time, Ethan calls non-stop at first. I let most go to voicemail. The ones I do answer are a masterclass in manipulation. First, it's soft, Lena baby. We can work through this. I messed up, yeah. But men in my position, this is normal. I'll fire her, I'll call a therapist, whatever you need. Just come home, I say very calmly. You were cheating in my bed with my friend on our anniversary. I'm not interested in working through that, he snaps. God, you're so dramatic. The next time he calls, he's angry. You're overreacting. Every guy I know has side women. You knew what this was when you married me, and I just hang up. I don't yell, I don't explain, I don't argue about my own worth. I refuse to audition for respect I already deserve. His lawyer eventually sends an offer. A lump sum that sounds big, but is way below what the law says. I'm entitled to a cabin in Michigan, and a thick NDA that basically says I can never say his name again in any context. Andrea slides the paper back and says, "He's lowballing badly. He thinks you're scared and you'll take anything." I laugh. I was scared before I saw him in my bed with my friend. That fear died in that doorway. Andrea grins. Good, then we count her high. While this legal back and forth is happening, I start breathing life back into my career. I log into my old design website. It looks like a museum from 5 years ago. I can almost see the version of me who updated it. Last hopeful and excited about new clients. I spend days rebuilding it, uploading better photos, writing about what I actually care about in a space, how people feel when they walk into a room, how small details affect mood. Then I send a bunch of emails to old contacts. "Hey, it's Lena. I'm back and taking on projects again." Most of them don't respond, a few do, and one completely changes my trajectory. A developer named Hannah writes, "Heard you're out of your marriage, good for you. I just bought a small boutique hotel, want to talk." That project becomes my first big. I did this on my own, win. And when I walk through that building for the first time with a notebook in my hand, instead of a glass of champagne, I feel more myself than I have in years. Somewhere in the middle of this, Ethan's last offer comes in, still wrapped in arrogance but finally close to what Andrea knows we can demand in court. It's enough for me to restart my business, buy my little office furniture, build a cushion, and we get some art pieces and other marital assets in the mix too. I agree, not because I'm suddenly compassionate, but because I'm ready to turn the page and stop letting him occupy space in my head. The judge signs. I walk out of court, legally, no longer Mrs. Cole, and for the first time in a long time, the name Lena Carter feels like it fits again. Now here's where the story takes a turn that some people love and some people absolutely hate. You can tell me what side you're on later. So I'm running my little design firm, working out of this modest office with big windows and cheap coffee, when I see this posting about a tech and energy company downtown called Hail Nexus, looking for a design team to redo their headquarters. I send my portfolio expecting nothing. A week later, I get an email from a woman named Dana. "Our CEO, Marcus Hale, has reviewed your work and would like to meet you personally." I seriously check the email address 3 times, because why would a billionaire CEO want to meet the girl his assistant clearly could have brushed off? But I go. Marcus in person is not the stiff corporate robot. His photos made him look like he's tall, yeah? Wearing a good shirt, but he's in rolled-up sleeves and sneakers, not some over-polished statue. He shakes my hand and says, "I spent all morning looking at that hotel project. You think in layers, most designers just think in surfaces." And I remember blinking, because Ethan had literally called my work fluff to my face. We sit down, and he doesn't start with budget or timelines. He says, "Tell me what you want people to feel when they walk into an office, not what you want them to see, what you want them to feel." And for an hour, I forget I'm technically pitching. I talk about anxiety and natural light, about how people move through corridors, about the difference between being impressed by a space and feeling like you belong in it. At one point, he leans back and says, "I looked you up, by the way." My stomach drops, he continues, "leaving a guy like Ethan in the way you did. That took guts. I like working with people who have skin in the game when it comes to their own values." I laugh awkwardly and say, "So you Googled my divorce?" He shrugs. Google everybody I do business with, not to gossip, to understand who I'm putting my company in bed with. Your ex seems like the type of man who thinks money buys him out of consequences. You don't strike me as that type of person. He ends up offering me the contract, and it's huge, bigger than anything I've ever been responsible for. There's a moment in negotiations where his lawyer tries to sneak in a clause that would basically give his company long-term ownership of some of my design concepts. He reads it, frowns, and says, "No, take that out. We're paying for this project, not for her entire creative brain." And honestly, that's the exact moment something in me went, "This is different." We worked together for months, and he never once talks down to me. He asks questions like he actually wants the answer. When he disagrees, he says, "Convince me," instead of, "You're wrong, we have late afternoon walkthroughs," where we're standing in dusty, half-built spaces, and he's listening to me ramble about tile. And one day, when the pressure of everything has eased a bit, he says, "I'm going to ask you something and you can say no, and it won't change anything about this project. Would you have dinner with me? Just dinner, nothing attached." My brain flashes back to Ethan, and how every nice thing he did came with strings, and I hear myself say, "I just got out of a marriage where I lost myself completely. If we ever do this, my business stays mine, my money stays mine, and if anything goes wrong, this contract doesn't blow up." He smiles. Good. The last thing I want is someone whose whole identity is being Mrs. Hale. I want someone who has her own life, and yeah, I'd like to be part of it, but I don't need to be the whole thing, so I go to dinner. That's the twist point for a lot of people watching my story, right? I leave one billionaire and end up with another, and you can already see the comments. "So you just upgraded to a richer guy. Congrats. Guess she really can't live without money." But sitting in that restaurant with Marcus, eating tacos in a place with a sticky floor and amazing food, listening to him talk about his mom, working double shifts, and how he almost quit college because he was so burned out. What struck me was how much he didn't act like Ethan. He didn't name drop. He didn't brag. He didn't say, "You're lucky." He asked about my hotel project, about my students, about my favorite cities. And every time I apologized for rambling, he said, "No, tell me more. I'm listening," and he meant it. You can feel that you know what I mean. Our relationship starts quietly. No tabloids, no paparazzi, just two people figuring each other out. He meets Tori, she puts him through a full FBI-style interrogation, then texts me later. "Approve, do not mess this up. My parents are more complicated." My mom pulls me aside and whispers, "Are you sure you're not just chasing comfort again?" And for the first time, I push back gently but firmly. "Mom, if Marcus lost everything tomorrow, I would still choose him because of who he is, not what he has." I couldn't say that about Ethan. When he had everything, she doesn't have a slick comeback for that. She just nods slowly. And over time, even she starts to see the difference. Meanwhile, Ethan is spinning out in the background like a cautionary tale. I don't see him, but I hear about him. Bad investments, losing key clients, giving interviews where he calls me a gold digger. She left the minute she realized she could do better. And the funny thing is, in a twisted way, he's right. I could do better, just not in the way he means. He thinks better means more zeros in the bank account. I mean better as in doesn't cheat on me in my own bed, doesn't gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy, actually respects my work. He can't imagine those metrics being worth anything. When Marcus proposes, it's on the rooftop garden of his building, the one I helped design. It's sunset, just us and a few string lights. He gets down on one knee with the city behind him and says, "You're already whole. I know that I don't want to fix you or own you. I want to walk beside you, to be your partner. Will you marry me, Lena?" And the yes that comes out of me feels completely different from the yes I said to Ethan. That first one had a tiny knot of fear tied to it. This one feels like I'm stepping into something chose with both eyes open. Our small ceremony happens in Colorado, friends, family. No headline-grabbing nonsense. Meanwhile, the article do the rounds online. Ex-wife of disgraced investor marries tech billionaire. Some people are happy for me, some are nasty, but by that point I genuinely don't care, because what happens inside our marriage matters more than what random strangers think about the price of my dress. And then, because life loves irony, Ethan really goes off the rails. He starts showing up outside my office building, yelling my name. Security escorts him out. He sends letters and weird gifts, which we document and send straight to my lawyer. One night he gets arrested outside my old apartment building with bolt cutters and a bag full of duct tape, zip ties, and printed photos of me. When I hear that, I sit down and shake, not because I still love him, that ship sank a long time ago, but because the man who used to tell me I'd never make it alone was apparently willing to risk a felony, trying to prove he still had power over me. He goes to trial, gets convicted, goes to prison with mandatory therapy, and even then, even in that mess, some people say, "You ruined him. You pushed him over the edge," like my decision to stop being cheated on and lied to somehow flipped a switch. He wasn't responsible for himself. Years go by, my design firm grows. I start teaching. I design a shelter for women leaving abusive or controlling partners. We choose warm colors, soft bedding locks that make them feel safe, little corners that say, "You deserve comfort," and when one woman hugs me at the opening and says, "Thank you for making this place feel like hope," I almost lose it, because that's what I wish someone had built for me when I was sitting in that garage with a cake on my passenger seat. One day, I get a thick envelope addressed in handwriting. I recognize instantly it's from Ethan. There's a self-published memoir in there. Rebuilding from rock bottom, and a note that says, "I don't expect you to answer therapy. Made me realize how badly I treated you. I blamed you for leaving for the settlement, for my downfall, but you were the only one in my life who gave me a real consequence. You leaving showed me nobody owes me their presence. I'm sorry. I hope you're happy." I read it once, put it back in the envelope, and set it on a shelf. I don't feel this big surge of forgiveness. I also don't feel hatred, mostly. I feel like I'm reading about a character from an old book I outgrew. His apology doesn't change my life. My life was already changed the moment I decided to choose myself. So here's where I turn it over to you, because people have loud opinions on this story. Some say I did exactly what I had to do. Some say I should have stayed for the money. Some say I'm a hypocrite for leaving one billionaire and marrying another. Others say I was too gentle at the end and should have burned his reputation publicly. So I want to ask you, if you were me, would you have taken that first deal, the hush money, and the NDA? Would you have met him for that apology he wanted years later? Do you think marrying Marcus cancels out my independent woman journey? Or do you think the real issue here isn't money at all? It's respect and how people treat each other. And have you ever had someone swear you'd be nothing without them, only to watch you build a life that proves them so wrong? If you have, tell me your story in the comments. I read them, I really do hit, like if you believe leaving isn't the end, but sometimes the beginning. Share this with someone who needs a little push to choose themselves. And if you want to hear more messy, honest stories like this, hit subscribe, because this is not the only chapter in my life where people completely misjudged my worth and had to watch me rise anyway.